All right, everyone, welcome back. So, we move on in our elimination series today with the first team of the Eastern Conference, and it really should not surprise anyone. It is the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets have been usually one of the first teams in the Eastern Conference to be eliminated for the past couple of years now. It should really not surprise anyone that they are the first team once again. And when it felt like that this year was going to be a lot better for this team, on a level, it really hasn't. We're going to get into some really concerning stats. Even though there are some bright spots on this roster, there still are some concerning stats to look at. So, as of right now, being eliminated from the playoffs, they are 23, 36, and 12 for 58 points. They are 29th in the NHL. They have scored 205 goals, have let in 260. They are 13, 18, and 5 at home, and 10, 18, and 7 on the road. So, again, as I've said, they've been last in the NHL, or not last in the NHL, last in the Eastern Conference for a few years in a row now. I remember in the early days of this channel, they did make the bubble playoffs, but then everything seemed to fall off from there. They have not come close since. And this team is developing a really good prospect pool and a lot of really good players, but we're still yet to see the improvement. We're still yet to see them moving steps in the right direction. There's been a lot of coaching changes. There's been a lot of general manager issues. There's been a lot of things that have gone wrong with this team over the last couple of years. And need I say more? Like there was the Mike Babcock situation, Pavel Vincent. He's come in. I have not been fully on board with a lot of Vincent's decisions. Jarmo Kekalainen was fired as a general manager, which overall he had a good and bad tenure as a general manager for as long as he was with this Columbus team. There's been plenty of injuries. There have been some positives. Like, I will get into some of the positives later on in this video, but definitely the negatives outrule the positives in this state. So, let's get into the leading scorers. You start off with Johnny Gaudreau, number one in Columbus Blue Jackets scoring. 71 games played, 11 goals, 41 assists for 52 points. Yeah, 11 goals for Johnny Gaudreau at this point in the season. Even last year, he had decent numbers, or at least acceptable numbers, comparatively speaking to his 115-point season before. He had at least acceptable numbers, but this year has just been a rough year for Gaudreau. It has. It has been a really rough year for him altogether. It's unfortunate because Gaudreau was signed to that big contract, hoping to become this next big player with Columbus. And, I mean, just at least this year, it just doesn't look like that. Like, he hasn't been scoring at a rate that we expect him to. And it looks like a really unfortunate signing there for the Blue Jackets for sure. But yeah, Gaudreau, I mean, he's still in Columbus for, I believe, 6 more years after this season. So he's done his second year. So we'll see what the rest of that looks like. And I mean, it's crazy too, because that whole triangle, like the Huberdeau, the Gaudreau, all that, it just seems like all of that meshed together turns into a lot of bad contracts. Now, there's been some good contracts there too, like Matthew Tkachuk was obviously great. But in that whole conundrum that we dealt with in the 2022 offseason, it's definitely something I'll probably look at again this summer. Because I've really been paying attention to the way Tkachuk's playing, Gaudreau, Huberdeau, all that stuff. I want to look at all those teams and see just how that has happened. But yeah, Gaudreau number one in Columbus scoring. Zach Werenski's number two. Werenski's 59 games played, 5 goals, 39 assists for 44 points. Werenski has had good numbers this season. I've liked Werenski's stats. I mean, there's been injuries. Again, Werenski has really struggled to stay healthy. And this isn't just a thing that is happening this season. It's happened last season too. Last year was also a really rough season for Werenski. He faced a lot of injuries. And, it just all in all hasn't been ideal. But if he can stay healthy, he's probably a top 20 defenseman. I think he's definitely the best defenseman on this Blue Jackets roster. But for sure, there's going to need to be some more improvements there before we can say, yeah, that blue line is ready. And it kind of starts with Werenski. Number 3, Kirill Marchenko. Marchenko was a rookie last season, and for me, he looked really impressive last year. 67 games played, 18 goals, 16 assists for 34 points. Those numbers are pretty solid for a guy like Marchenko, who really wasn't expected to be much of a big-name player. So it's good to see, there's been a few players like that this year who have come to Columbus and have played really well. So hopefully Marchenko can continue to be that and continue to be that kind of special gem as the Blue Jackets start to head out of this rebuild. It's kind of what you want to see next season. You want to see some more improvement, even though I'm not entirely sure we'll see that. But obviously, hey, we'll find out. Number 4, Boone Jenner. Jenner, obviously the captain of this team. 56 games played, 21 goals, 12 assists, 33 points. There were some rumors that Jenner might get traded. Obviously, that never ended up happening. But yeah, Boone Jenner has solid numbers there for this Columbus team. Acceptable there for a captain. I'm a fan of Jenner, even though he's not one of the best captains in the NHL for sure. And then finally, number 5 is one of the more surprising players, kind of like Marchenko. You had Dmitry Voronkov. Voronkov, 65 games played, 17 goals, 14 assists, 31 points. I mean, that's pretty good numbers there for a player who I didn't even know before the season started. And I think a lot of casual hockey fans may not have known who Voronkov was. Probably some of them don't even know who Voronkov is at this point in the season. So it's good to see a player like Darren Voronkov kind of making an impact there for a team that has not been so great this year. And yeah, there have been a lot of bad, and I mean, like, your leading scorer is 52 points. Like, that's rough. And I mean, you know, you look at some of the other players, like Patrick Laine struggled, Ivan Provorov struggled. There's been a lot of players this year who really have struggled on this Columbus roster. But yeah, definitely I think that in the next few years they will start to improve. It's just a matter of getting those guys developed. And as well as that too, obviously Fantilli did not make this list. I think he's injured. I feel like or else he would be in this list, but you know, yeah, whatever. In your goaltending position, you got a few goalies here. You got Elvis Merzlikins, 39 games played, 12, 16, and 8 for a 3.4 and a .899 save percentage. I saw a lot of arguments saying that, oh, Merzlikins wants out of Columbus and, oh, he's going to get traded. I didn't see a whole lot of traction around him because, let's face it, he's not that great of a goalie, or at least he just hasn't been this season. I mean, I've seen potential of Merzlikins in previous seasons, but just this year has not been it for Columbus. It just hasn't been. And Merzlikins plays a part in that too. You also got Danil Tarasov. Tarasov, 21 games played, 7, 10, and 3, a 3.24, and a .904, so a better save percentage there in less games, obviously. I don't really know if Tarasov looks ready. I think that this year, I mean, it looks like a solid development year because, I mean, a .904 isn't terrible on a team that's been awful. So, I mean, Tarasov, we'll see if he's that future number 1 goalie, but obviously right now it's kind of too early to tell when you look at Columbus. But, yeah, I mean, this is the, I believe it's the 5th straight season they've been out of the playoffs. It's been a little bit. So it's been, 4 or 5 years, not 6 years. So it's been a little bit since Columbus has been in the playoffs, and we're probably not going to see them in the playoffs for at least another 2 years. It's unfortunate, but I mean, Columbus is at that rate where they're probably through the worst of it, and now things should start getting better next season. And if they don't, you might need to consider something else. But this team has never gone into like a legitimate rebuild. They really haven't announced that because they still have a lot of bad contracts. They still have they're paying like a lot of their defensemen a boatload of money. Like Provorov and Severson make up about 20% of their defensive salary cap. So yeah, it's just rough to see there. It's definitely not 20%. It's definitely way more than 20%. But yeah, it's definitely rough to see there. Kekalainen's kind of has done a lot of good things, but he's also done a lot of bad things recently. So definitely the new guy who's coming in, Davidson or whoever's going to take over as the new GM, they're going to have a lot on their hands here heading into this, this next era of Columbus Blue Jackets hockey. But again, as I said, they have plenty of good pieces that they can build together a good team, but it's still going to take some time. So regardless, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe down below. I greatly appreciate it. But regardless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.